I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. The first order of business is the pledge and mindfulness moment. So if you would like to rise to say the pledge. All right, sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we normally do a mindfulness moment, but I'm actually going to encourage a moment of silence for actually the school children and teachers that lost their lives this week. So I would encourage you to think about that for a moment, and then we will get into the rest of our meeting. I realize a moment of silence doesn't bring anyone back, but I hope that we can all be able to offer some support and condolences and prayers and support to families and communities that are suffering. With that, I'm going to read the board norms to remind. They're not board norms, meeting norms, to remind everybody of the norms for the meetings. This is for board members, community members, administration, anyone who's here joining us at the meeting. So 1, keep the best interests of the school and children in mind while balancing the needs of the taxpayers. 2, make decisions based on clear information. 3, honor the board's decisions. 4, keep meetings short and on time. 5, stick to the agenda. 6, keep remarks short and to the point. 7, everyone gets a chance to talk, before people take a second turn. And 8, respect others and their ideas. And with that, I'm gonna let you know the guidelines for our public comment. And then we will move into approving the agenda, the rest of the agenda. So the thing that I want to say to anyone joining us either virtually or in person is thank you for your attendance at our board meeting. My fellow board members and I recognize the importance of hearing from you. As a reminder, comments from the public are not designed to be a discussion, but rather an opportunity for board members to listen to members of our community. Citizens have 2 options for sharing comments during this meeting, either during the public comment portion of the agenda for items that are not on the agenda, or during the public comment period of each agenda item. Each individual speaker is allotted 2 minutes. Please speak only when I recognize you. Please direct all comments to the board. You may either sign in on the speakers list for in-person meetings or submit the agenda items you wish to speak to using the chat feature if you're attending virtually. If you're not able to use the speakers list or the chat feature, you can simply raise your hand during the public comment portion of the agenda or the public comment period of the agenda item you wish to speak about and wait to be recognized. If you are unable to attend a board meeting, you may always submit written comments or questions to the board via our emails, which are listed on our BUUSD website. And with that, we will get to the agenda. Item number 3 is additions or deletions with a motion to approve the agenda. So I will look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Sarah with a first, Chris with a second. Are there any additions or deletions? Yes, Terry.
I would like to either remove 12.1 or move it out of executive session. Remove it altogether or move it out of executive session.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I respect your request. If Pedro's here, he'd be able to answer that question. If he joins us before executive session, we can have a conversation with him about why it's an executive session. Okay?
I think that's a board decision, right? Shouldn't we vote on that?
Well, I would think that we would get, we'd probably want to get advice from our legal counsel as to why he wants to be in executive session.
Okay. The explanation that you had given was that previously you had done that, and that is not true. That is incorrect.
No, we had.
No, if you go back to the minutes of that meeting, March 25th. Mr. Wells briefly exited executive session and reported that BUUSD counsel Pietro has advised that training session with the attorney is not a public meeting and is not an executive session matter. So if it wasn't an executive session matter then, it's not now.
So we can wait for him to join us and get.
I may be able to be helpful. I do know that Pietro said this training should be in executive session. I mean,
Can I speak?
Sure.
So can you explain why it's executive session it requires? Because being a new board member, I have done my due diligence and I've read the executive session topics that you can go into for executive session.
Right.
Unless it's legal counsel guiding us on for the purpose of professional legal services, that's a different story. But if it's just board training, I don't get how that constitutes going into executive session.
Well, if our legal representative suggested it be in executive session, I'm guessing the legal standards there are that he wants it in
Okay,
executive
but we
session.
first need to decide why we need legal representation. It's board training. So
Do the training or.
can I expand further on, to me, board training? Chair, you have brought up to us that there's been many members from the community asking you what our role is, what the community committee roles are. To me, this would be a great opportunity to have it in open meeting, if it's just board training. That way everybody can see and hear what our roles are, what the committee roles are. Transparency.
So I'm
And
gonna.
then-
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And it would be recorded so that people could go back, and if they had a question about it, they could see the recording. Anybody that was considering running for the school board, this would be a great resource for them to see what the roles are of everything. And I don't know if board training, is there anything sensitive in there that needs to be held in executive session?
So you.
Well, I'm not done yet, thank you. So I guess I would like to know from Pietro why board training constitutes going into executive session.
So are you asking me or are you asking Pietro?
I'm
Because
asking you,
Pietro's
though,
not.
I would like to know from the rest of the board how they also feel about it.
So here's the thing. I'll tell you how I was going to answer your question. It's not my preference. If Pietro requested that it's an executive session, I follow the advice, our legal advice. This is why we pay him, for his legal advice. And as I stated in an email, I don't think any of the board members sitting around this table have a law degree. I trust him as the expert to make those decisions on our behalf. So if he recommends that we go into executive session for this training, that's why we're going into executive session. I don't know. I'm not sure what the training is. I haven't previewed the slides. I don't know. I mean, I know the general topics. I don't know what everything is going to be discussed. I don't know what questions people are going to ask. So I'm supposing that he probably wanted an executive session to make sure that we can discuss freely any questions that we may have that may have sensitive information. That's my guess. I don't know, but he's not here to answer the question. You can keep arguing with me.
No,
You
I'm
can
not
keep
arguing.
asking
I'm
the
not arguing.
questions.
I'm just
I don't have an
pointing out
answer.
what you have stated to us. I'm not arguing, Sonia. I'm stating what you have said to us. You said in the agenda, we're going to talk about our role, public meetings, quorums, committees, and it's quoted as board training. And I guess I would like further explanation on what is so sensitive, or if there's something legal
Okay, so
that we need to go.
I'm going to recommend again that we ask Pietro when he joins us, because there's no way for me to answer the question. I am not Pietro. I did not make the recommendation that we go into executive session. So we have to rely on him to answer that question. If you would like to argue with him,
No, I'm not.
then
gonna
feel
argue.
free to do that.
This isn't about arguing. This is about getting facts and figuring out why the rules say one thing, but yet we're doing something different.
So I think Pietro is the
Yes,
one who
and I
can
agree.
answer, so we can move on because
That's
he's
right.
not here and I
And that was my
hear
last statement
Sonia
was,
saying
let's
we
ask
will
Pietro.
ask
Okay,
Pietro.
so yes.
So my second one was to remove it all together. So I had emailed you back at the beginning of May asking what precipitated this training? Why are we doing this training?
It was recommended by Pietro.
Okay, well, we as a board haven't discussed it. We as a board haven't agreed to the topics. We as a board have not voted to do this. So I don't think it's appropriate to do it. If that's the case, we should discuss this as a board and make a decision as a board.
Okay, so here's my suggestion. If we are calling and emailing our legal counsel with as many questions as we have, and he's making a suggestion, why don't I come in and do a training so everyone understands some of the issues around public meetings, the issues around committees, the issues around quorum. I'll come in and give a training. He makes a suggestion to help us, so maybe he won't have to answer as many questions and we can all be on the same page. I would think we would all want to participate in that. This is his suggestion.
Pietro is basically telling me this is not a meeting, it is a training, it is not subject to OML, open meeting law. So,
But that's fine. That's fine, but your own words, we don't make decisions arbitrarily or as one member, and you're making a decision for the whole board.
I was recommended by our legal counsel that we have the training.
And I would think an appropriate response from the chair would be, we'll discuss it at the board level. We'll make sure everyone's on board and vote, and we'll get it scheduled.
Do you not want to have more information about what's appropriate from our legal counsel?
I do, but
Okay.
I'd like an opportunity up front to know what the topics are and have a choice to weigh in that yes, I do or yes, I don't, not have the decision made for me.
Sonia, if I can just maybe hopefully help with this. This was a recommendation by me, Terry and Nancy, based on some of the discussions we've been having about board dynamics, roles of committees. And there seemed to be a lot of questions about what role the board is going to have. I reached out to Pietro and said, we need help with this because we're taking a lot of time discussing this. This is not how other boards operate. We need some help with this. So that it wasn't Sonia's recommendation,
Well, okay.
just so we know. And I reached out to Pietro, made this recommendation that we have this training. These trainings happen fairly regularly for boards across the state. So I didn't anticipate this was going to be a controversial topic. It's to help us do our work.
Can I speak for a minute, please? How I'm looking at this is, I was elected to do this job. That does not mean that I understand fully all of the things I'm supposed to do, all the things that I can do. And so how I'm looking at this is, Pietro Lynn is the lawyer for just about every school district. He does schools, that's his thing. And so I want him to help me better understand what's my role. That's how I'm looking at it. Just like if, starting my new job, I need a mentor. I need somebody to show me the ropes. I can't just go in and know it or think I know it and just do whatever I want and hope I'm right. And so that's how I'm looking at this, because Chris and I didn't get a lot of training either when we came on. And so I still have a lot of questions to do my job better. We all make mistakes. We're all human. I screwed up today, but we learn from those mistakes, but we also have to know what our job is. You know what I mean? Like that's how I'm looking at this, is somebody is going to help me better understand my job.
And I agree with that. I know nothing wrong with training, but I don't know why it has to be an executive session.
But
Because it
that's what
clearly
Pietro.
states not a reason for executive session.
Okay.
I don't know what there is to hide.
So we're gonna go. We're gonna move on.
One more comment, please.
Yes.
So I just wanted, with what Mr. Hennessy has just said, Sonia, you're not speaking with all the facts, right? You're saying that Pietro requested to do this training. That is not correct.
No.
It was my
The
understanding.
district requested.
It was my understanding.
No. When I brought up this dilemma to him, he requested, so let me state that properly, that he come and meet with the board, and forgive me if I misstated
No,
that.
and that's fine, and I agree that training is valuable, but again, this has not been discussed at the board. The topics have not been discussed at the board, so again, I would just reiterate that I think it should be removed and rescheduled, and if that's not possible, I'd like it removed from executive session, regardless. So,
Well, based on Pietro's recommendation, I think we should keep it in executive session. So,
sounds like we need to vote on it then.
are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Andrea?
Just to provide a little clarification. I don't believe it does qualify for executive session, and Pietro didn't last year either. There's nothing to say you can't do it privately, because the catch is under open meeting law. It says a meeting shall not mean occasions when a quorum of the public body attends social gatherings, conventions, conferences, training programs, press conferences. So in other words, a training program is not considered a public meeting. Therefore, it's not considered part of board action. So you wouldn't go into executive session for it because it doesn't meet the legal requirements of executive session. But it's saying that it's not considered a meeting of the board to be in training together. Does that make sense? And that's the answer Pietro gave you last year. David Wells came out of executive session after talking to Pietro, and Pietro said, no, it doesn't qualify for executive, but it's not part of your public meeting. So you exited executive session, you closed your meeting, and then you went into a private training session.
Okay, so thank you, Andrea. So what we can do is just end our meeting. We can adjourn after number 11. We won't have any executive session, and we will have board training after that.
So maybe that's what the dilemma is. The executive session is the controversy, but he's making it clear it's a private training.
But it's a private
Not
training in the
subject
sense that it's not,
Open meeting.
it's not executive session, but it's also not open to the public.
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't part of open meeting law.
Well, you've got it on the agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in executive session,
Right.
because
I know, folks, this training is designed to be helpful to all of us to do our work better. These trainings are happening all across Vermont for various boards. This should be a good thing. This should be something that can be help us do our work. There's no desire to do anything that is not above board here at all. These trainings happen regularly.
Fine, Chris, but we have the chair getting upset, telling people that they're arguing with her because they have a different opinion. So clearly there's some tension here and some issues on this topic. And the right thing to do is simply just vote on it, and then the board will on record.
Can we just get, is there a way that we can table this one item, and once David, I mean, once the lawyer gets here, he can explain it and we can go from there instead of, because we don't. So we're just going back and forth a lot.
I'm not taking public comment on whether we're going to include things on the agenda. So I'm not taking public comment on that. We are approving our agenda, and I'm sure David Delcourt wants to weigh in about whether it's executive session or not. And, I know what he's going to say, and so we already have hashed it out. He just got here, so he doesn't realize that. We will approve the agenda, adjourning the meeting after next meeting date and take it out of executive session, and we'll leave board training. We will not have board training be on the agenda, and we'll ask Pietro when he gets here whether we should amend that. I think it, based on what Andrea said, it shouldn't be an executive session, but it should not necessarily be a part of the agenda either. So we'll get around that. Andrea?
So all you need to do at this point is say you are, you're approving the agenda as amended with the removal of agenda item 12.1. And that way it's gone, and if you want to discuss it with Pietro when he gets there, whether or not, you know, and the reasons for why he wants it to be private, and then you guys can move on from there.
Okay, are there any other additions or deletions? Thank you. And the seconder? Okay, so all those in favor of the agenda with the amendment to remove 12.1 from executive session, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed? So Terry voted no. I think he did. Tim, you voted yes? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, you're not deleting 12.1 from executive session, you're just deleting 12.1.
Correct. We're just deleting it. It's no longer part of our meeting. Okay, next is public comment, and these are for items not on the agenda. I will warn you, I am going to keep you to 2 minutes, and you will get to speak one time. And when the timer goes off, I would ask that you respectfully wrap up your comments. Is there anyone here that would like to speak during public comment for items that are not on the agenda?
I would.
Okay, go ahead, sir. What's your name, please?
My name is Brian Judd, and I'm from Berry City.
Mhm.
And this is the first time I've ever attended a school board meeting, so I'm very grateful and thankful to be here. And I have concerns for our children. I also have concerns for our teachers as well. And so I'm going to linger around after this meeting. And so any of you folks that would like to come up to me and, help educate me on what's been going on here or what does go on here, I'm very interested in that. Also, I'm running for state rep for Berry City. And if any of you would like to talk to me about why I'm running and my campaign or anything, I'll be around to talk to you about that as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hold on one second, Josh. Paul, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, hi. In light of what's gone on in Texas and a number of the other things that have gone on in schools over the years, I have a poster to bring before the board. A year ago, we eliminated the SRO position at Spalding High School. And I'm wondering whether or not we should reconsider that posture in light of some of the documented evidence that's come out of Texas about having personnel in school that would be able to intercept such hostile situations. It's something that I'm certainly going to talk to the chair of the finance committee about, maybe looking at that as well. But I think protecting these kids, we've gone a long ways in locking down buildings and developing security systems, but we've also gone backwards, I think, by eliminating the SRO at the high school, especially at that particular age group, which tends to be a little bit more volatile. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. You
I did.
Go ahead.
So first off, I'm a little concerned with the way the demeanor of the board chair was with public comment. I understand. I don't expect any reaction. Number two, my daughter addressed a seatbelt situation 2 weeks ago with the superintendent. I'm supposed to address the board. I'll do that. She has not been spoken to yet. I'm wondering why the seatbelts are not implemented in the school. The bus drivers can wear the seatbelts. My students cannot. That's unacceptable. We need to keep them safe. According to the bus coordinator, Nancy, at the school, she says that it's because of COVID and it's a contractor issue. So we need to get that resolved. As a father and as a city councilor, safety is important. My next one is really just the question about executive session, and I understand that you're not going to comment, but how can the community learn about these sessions, these training sessions, to be involved with the board and the community and the committees if they don't get training as well? You all said very clearly that you did not get provided training for this. It would be important for the public to get training so they can be involved as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else here in person that would like to speak? Okay, Josh Howard, do you have 2 minutes? Go ahead.
Well, I wasn't planning on talking about the SRO and Spalding, but I think Paul Malone makes a fantastic point. We definitely need to start looking at that, as not just because of the events from Texas that just happened, but also what just happened in Montpelier just a couple weeks ago that I'm sure some of you have seen a statement of. As far as the seatbelts, Chris, I brought this up like a year ago. I thought it was handled, but apparently it wasn't. So I would urge you to let's see if we can figure this thing out. And I guess the third thing, if I can remember what I was going to say here, I was going to request if we can, at some point at one of these meetings, we can have a current enrollment figure for students in a district broken down by school compared to the enrollment figures we had back in December, broken down by school as well, just so I can have the information.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
I'm just gonna go during the reports.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing none, let's move on to student voice. Is there anyone here joining us for student voice that would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? I have a student.
She had to go to the bathroom, and honestly, she feels she doesn't want to speak in front of you guys. She's been very intimidated
Okay.
by the attitude and
Okay,
atmosphere.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, so next we'll move on to the consent agenda, 5.1, for the regular meeting minutes from May 12th. I will look for a motion to approve those meeting minutes, please. First by Sarah and a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Alice. Any questions, any comments? Andrea, I had one thing on the first page under public comment. Byrne Rose addressed the board, and then in the second sentence, it should be Ms. Rose.
I'm sorry, you just cut out.
The second sentence, it starts out with Ms. Burns, and it should be Miss Rose.
Thank you for catching that.
I figured people would know who we were talking about, but I just wanted to make sure it was clear. Are there any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Or thumbs up. Tim's got a thumbs up. Okay, those those minutes are approved. Thank you. We'll go on to new hires, and Chris, I will let you handle that.
Thank you. In the board packet from Friday, we had 2 new hires, and the addendum that came out yesterday, we had 4. So we have 6 new people to bring forward to you guys this evening. The first is Lily Meadows. She's going to be a special educator on the Barrytown team. Young teacher moving here from Ohio, and I'm happy to report she has a place secured to live, which is wonderful news. Very excited to have Lily join our team. Vika Simmons. Vika is joining the foreign language department as a Spanish teacher at Spalding High School, recent St. Mike's grad, most recently from teaching Spanish up in the North Country High School. Moving on to the addendum, we have Lauren Paulson. Lauren is moving here as a recent Salisbury University graduate from Maryland. She's joining the Barrytown first grade team. Very excited to join us as a visiting Vermont with family next weekend. And we are helping her with living situations right now as we speak. Got a gentleman returning home to Barry, Robert Pettis. He's going to be our elementary music teacher at Barry City. Longtime music educator out west and in Virginia, and has returned home with his family to Barry. He is a Spalding graduate. Happy to report Brandon Walker is going to be our new middle school physical education teacher at Barry City. Brandon is the son of John, our head custodian at Barry City. Proud dad, no doubt. He has been a behavior specialist at Barry City this year. Very skilled, talented guy. Happy to have him join our team. And finally, Derek Cipriano. Derek is going to be our new athletic director at Spalding High School. He's been the AD at Oxbow for the last 3 years. Lives in Barry. Super excited to join the Spalding team and get to it this summer. So we have all 6 of these folks ready to go, and hope you can approve them.
So I would ask, is the board okay with approving them with one motion?
And then we do questions after.
Or do you have one person that you'd like to pull out, or?
I had questions on 2 folks.
Okay,
So I don't know if we just approve and then ask questions.
do you want to do them all at once? Is that okay, or we can ask questions?
Okay, can we ask questions now?
Sure.
Okay. So my question on Lauren Paulson, on the hire sheet, there wasn't any checked off about if she has a license or any provisional or anything, and I wonder if you know anything about that?
Yep, Lauren is going to be eligible for a license. We've got her set up with Alice, and So she will be eligible for a license.
Okay.
We wouldn't be bringing people forward unless we see them viable to be licensed.
Okay, okay. And then the other question was about Brandon Walker. So I saw that it was checked off that he'll go for a provisional, he'll have a provisional license. And I'm wondering, without any, I don't see any college work that's educational, like that's education, or about PE. And so I just didn't know how likely that is to be approved as a provisional with that lack of
Yeah,
experience.
Brandon has met with me in detail about this, and he's already working with the licensing office for peer review. He's got lots of experience in outdoor education, and the ducks are in a row to get this done. So we're working closely with the licensing office of the AOE. So he's already getting it set up. He's going to have 2 years to get this done, and he knows that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I saw the information about the months that he was a wilderness therapy guide, but I didn't see any training around being a teacher. So through the provisional experience, there might be some requirements then
Oh,
to
for
take
sure.
classes specifically
sure.
around that endorsement.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions about any of the candidates?
I had a question about Ms. Meadows. It says that it's in the reciprocal process because she has an Ohio license.
Yeah.
Is that also a 2-year process?
No, she should be, if she qualifies for a teaching license in Ohio, she will qualify for it here as well. She's just got to get her, it's the reciprocity between
Yeah,
the
right.
states. So she's already licensed there. So we don't envision that being a problem getting her licensed here. And I should add that the nature of the hiring market right now in education, we are getting a lot of folks with less experience than we used to do. This is happening all over. And our aim is just to get simply the best people possible from an extremely limited candidate pool that all districts are facing right now. So we are having to work very closely with the AOE. Fortunately, I chair the Regional Standards Board for administrators in Central Vermont. I've got close relationships with the folks at the license. Work closely with these people to help these young folks out.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve the candidates Meadows, Simmons, Paulson, Pettis, Walker, and Cipriano or Cipriano?
Cipriano.
I believe it's Cipriano.
Cipriano.
So
Chris with a first and a second, Sarah with a second. Any other questions, discussion?
Can the public ask a question about this?
Sure.
Okay. Just one for sure question. maybe.
Mr. Chair, can I just interrupt for a second? We have somebody just joined the meeting with an unknown number. Could you just share that for the record, please? Hang on. Just said unknown. I just want to make sure we have that folks identified. Yeah, there's an unknown. If you could identify yourself, the person just joined the meeting.
Yeah, so Chris, it's Pietro Lynn. I was just checking in to get a sense of timing.
Thank you, Pietro. We're on schedule, sir.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so these are 6 new hires. Are any of these new positions or are these old positions that are just being filled?
These are replacement positions for
Okay.
people who have resigned or retired.
Okay. So any of so these 6 positions, the folks who held them previously either resigned or retired?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approving these 6 new hires, please signify by saying aye or with a thumbs up. And Tim, great. All right, those new hires are approved. Thank you. Next is the RAN comparison approval. And Chris, are you going to present this?
Well, I know that we got this added in. This is the FY23 revenue anticipation note comparison. Lisa and I have met on this. We're recommending we go with the community bank. And we need to get this, if you're looking at these comparables here, you can see. And I know we need to take action on this. The board needs to approve this, so.
So, and for anyone who doesn't know, if you don't know what the revenue anticipation note is, and hopefully I can explain this correctly, and if I get it wrong, Sarah chime in, or someone else chime in. So we have to borrow money until our funding from the state comes in. So this is who we go out and try to find the best loan to be able to borrow money, to be able to continue to pay our bills until we get our funding from the state of Vermont. So that's what this revenue anticipation note is for. Is that about right?
That's about right, yeah. We do this every year. We go out and obviously Community Bank has consistently given us the best interest rates. So we've always gone with them. It's basically because the new fiscal year for the state and for taxes starts on July 1st. Obviously, the state needs to collect that money before they can give it to us.
I have a question. Go ahead, Nancy.
Is it an actual loan? It's not like a line of credit, or is it?
My understanding is there's a limit to it. I don't know what that is. It's always been,
It's a short-term loan.
it's a short-term loan.
It's a short-term loan.
And then you get income off of reinvesting it unless you use it. You actually make some money.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why there's the loan amount percentage and the investment amount percentage on there.
Right.
On the spreadsheet.
You have a question?
Yeah, my question is, do we know what the time frame is from when we get the loan to when the money from the state comes in and we pay the loan back? Do we pay it in full all at once, or it's over time?
That's a good question. And I think Lisa's answered that before, and I can't remember.
Oh, you know.
I
Do you
could
know?
email Lisa.
I don't think it gets paid all in full, to be honest, but
No.
don't quote me on that.
The question was time frame between from taking out the loan to when we get the money from the state, and does it all get paid back all at once?
When the money's come in, tax revenues, reported and so forth. It's very similar to what tandem is for municipalities.
Mhm.
Tax anticipation note. We can't call it a tax anticipation note, but it works on the same principle. But in the school situation, you have that money waiting to be used if you need it. If it doesn't get used, it's already reinvested. Sometimes you get about 0.75% or 1% on that money. When the auditors see that in the finance portfolio, you'll see it as the part of the interest that was earned by the district. And then it comes from that.
Yeah, okay, thank
I
you.
have another question.
Yes.
So when we get the money, does the bank use the money for investing, or do we have an account that we put it in for investing?
Best way to describe it, the bank loans you the amount of money that you're requesting at a fixed rate of interest.
Mhm.
However, usually with the same institution, that money is reinvested. Of course, the bank will
Right.
use it, but you're getting an interest rate on it.
Okay,
It's like any other kind of bank financing.
yes, okay. I didn't know if we actually moved the money to the investment account and then it was.
No.
It's in the account, it's a
Right,
account, same
but-
institution.
Okay, so the superintendent recommendation is for community bank, and I would look for a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to go with community bank for the FY23 revenue anticipation note.
So moved.
Sarah with a first and a second.
Nancy.
Nancy with
Sorry,
a
Al.
No,
second.
go ahead, Allison.
That's okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Has the bank said anything that with the volatility of the banking community right at the moment, when we sign on the dotted line for the 1% and the investment of 1.5, that will hold, that there won't be any changes to that?
I don't anticipate that there will be changes. I think what I can do, Alice and everybody, is just get some more details on this from Lisa, so we have this all that I can share with you. But in my meeting with her about this, she indicated this is routine, and is not
Yeah,
anticipating
I
problems
don't
at all.
believe it's very,
Yeah.
I think it's,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Any other questions?
Looks like we'll be addressing this again on June 9th. for
There'll be
signature.
paperwork, yeah, that we have to
so it'll
sign.
Come up again then.
I think that we have to approve it now, so
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the paperwork can be prepared, so that we
Yeah,
can
that's
sign it. Okay, any other? Andrea?
Usually in the past, when the motion has included who to contract with and to authorize the board chair to sign the required document.
Okay,
I would like to amend my motion to approve Community Bank, which is the superintendent's recommendation, with the stated interest rates as listed in our board packets, and allow our board chair to sign the
okay. Nancy as a seconder, is that okay? That amendment? Okay. Thanks, Andrea. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or thumbs up. And those opposed? All right, that is approved. Next, we're gonna go to the VSBA vision. The first thing that was in your packet is for resolution, and I apologize, Tina put that in, and that's not what you should have received. The thing that was in your addendum is actually what we're going to discuss. The VSBA is trying to, clarify their vision, and so they've sent out this survey that you see in your packet. So I'm just going to ask, this is exactly the what I received. So they're, as you can see, the VSBA Board of Directors in their quest to review and examine VSBA vision statement by discussing the questions. Please help the VSBA Board of Directors by discussing the questions in this survey and providing full board feedback on the following prompts. Some of you may not have a lot of contact or know anything about VSBA, and some of you may have a lot of contact or have a lot of opinions. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about number 1, number 2, and number 3. And what I'd like to do is, if you have thoughts, just go around the room and get your thoughts about 1, is the VSBA, if the VSBA is wildly successful over the next 5 years, what will that look like to your local board? Number 2, thinking about VSBA, what are the most valuable VSBA products and services? And number 3, thinking about VSBA, what could VSBA best serve the needs and interests of your board and district? So, number 1, is there anybody who, I can go around. Alice, do you have thoughts about if the VSBA is widely successful over the next 5 years, what will that look like to your local board?
I don't have any thought on that.
Okay.
I just hope they are wildly successful.
Okay. Fair enough. Terry?
No, it's just, honestly, it's kind of short notice to, hey, here's these that come up with answers on the spot, but no.
Okay. Nancy?
Yeah, that's what's my point. Do we have to do this now? Do we have, can something it's due tomorrow?
It's due tomorrow.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Looks like you just
On the
signed it,
first
right?
one, I think the Vermont School Board Association is very important, and I think they're gonna continue to play a huge role. The school boards. What was the second question? Or are we doing it one?
We're just gonna do it one at a time.
Okay.
Renee, do you have any thoughts?
I guess when I first saw this, my question was, what is the definition of being wildly successful? Like, what would be the indicator? I'm just serious. That's not operationally defined. Say, if the VSBA is wildly successful, how would I know if they were wildly successful? Like, is it money? Is it being available? Like, I don't know what's wild success for the VSBA.
I think they're asking you to answer that. Like, what would it look
What
like?
would that look like to
Yeah.
your local board if they
Yeah.
were wildly successful?
I would think that we might have someone that was assigned to us and that checked in with us regularly about issues that are coming up related to bigger issues of the board or about Vermont, and having a pulse on what's the business of other boards and how we might compare to that. Just more information and more connection.
Okay. That's a great answer. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, I like that. That's good.
How about you, Sarah?
Oh, I'm gonna piggyback right on that. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. How about you, Tim? Do you have any thoughts?
No, I guess, one of the things that keeps coming to me is that there seems to be so much confusion about what the rules are, what's going on, and how we do this and how we do that. I'd like to see less of that. Maybe some guidance from the school board association might do us some good.
We caught about half of what you said.
It's okay. I'm good.
Could anybody,
I think what he might have said, Tim, tell me if I'm wrong. I think what he was saying is that having more involvement with the VSBA might help us answer some of the questions that we have.
He's nodding.
okay, thank you.
How'd you learn that language?
She's
I work
a
in public
teacher.
schools.
Okay. Number 2, thinking about the VSBA, what are the most valuable VSBA products and services? Alice, do you have thoughts?
Yes, the training that they do and the lobbying that they do, because the lobbying in particular is, individual members of boards just don't have the time to be at the State House all the time and doing that. So as our representative to the legislature, that's very important. And the legislative information that they send back to us through their newsletter and that information is also extremely important, because then it gives individual members of boards the opportunity to contact their state representatives or the governor on some issue pertaining to education. So training and lobbying and the legislative information is extremely important.
Got it. Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, I think they're the legislative updates in the policy development research.
Nancy?
The training, the legislation, and the online information. Yeah, everything that they've said.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I covered it.
The most valuable thing for me as the chair of the policy committee is the policy manual and the policy index. I go to that like weekly, every 2 weeks, like all the time, to try to get ready for those meetings.
Okay. Tim, do you have anything to add? Okay. Thank you. Number 3, last question. Thinking about the VSBA, how could the VSBA best serve the needs and interests of your board and district? Alice?
And I think that they have one person who is their official trainer, and they may want to expand that into more than one person, because if you just look at the list on the other side of all the different, that's one person trying to cover all of that. So I think they might serve everyone better if they expanded their training staff.
Okay. Thank you. Terry?
I'll pass on that one. Thank you.
Okay. Nancy?
I like what Chris Parker said about having somebody assigned to us and possibly coming in on an annual basis to, especially if there's new members, to do the training, board training.
Okay. Thank you. Renee?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to have somebody specifically for us.
Chris?
Again, I'm thinking about policy because that's how I interact with the VSBA the most. It would be great when they rescind, update, or have a new policy for there to be some expanded information about why those changes are being made, why something's rescinded, why a new required policy is coming out, because it helps inform the committee and our recommendations to bring it back to the board so that we can make informed decisions about adopting or rescinding policies. Yeah. And often we just have, this is rescinded or this is required, but we don't know the history or any detailed information about it.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah? Tim? Okay. All right. Thank you for helping me with that. I appreciate it. And I will share this with the VSBA. Next is old business, and we actually don't have anything under old business. We're going, yes,
Is it possible to ask ask a question about those three things you just went over?
sure.
Okay. Just one quick question. The training that you folks were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, is this referring to that? Is this training you're talking about with the Vermont School Board, is that referring to this training?
No, so the Vermont School Boards Association is an organization that we belong to that serves school boards across the state of Vermont. And they provide different trainings, they have conferences, they have legislative, they lobby on behalf of school boards and provide feedback about education legislation that's happening. And they do provide trainings, and I have actually had a conversation with their new staff member about providing training for this board. The training that we're talking about is with our attorney. So it's separate, it's different, but it will cover probably many of the same things. When the VSBA does it, they do it in a really broad sense for all school boards, and Petra will be able to answer our specific questions if we have any, because, I mean, not that the VSBA wouldn't answer specific questions, but they also try to make things very broad and very general.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sonia, may I just add something quickly? I was going to hold off until we did our committee reports when we got to the policy committee report, but I just want to let folks know related to some of these points that people are making that I've reached out to our old friend Sandra Cameron, who is our former Regional Act 166 coordinator. She is now the Director of Public Policy for the VSBA, and she and I are meeting next Wednesday to, at some point next week, to talk about some of these very issues, how we can get more support for that policy committee work, so that we're going into those meetings much more prepared for the points you just brought up, Chris, but also to think about having a liaison for a district, and she's excited to talk to me about all those points. So
Yeah, well, and it really came up at the last meeting where we had to hold 3 or 4 policies because there were a lot of questions.
sure.
And we just didn't feel ready to bring it to the board yet, so
Yeah,
thank you.
this should help us be able to work in a more efficient
Great.
manner. So,
Thank you.
and she said we're not alone with this stuff, and so
Great.
I think she'll be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Next is, so we have nothing for old business, so we're going to move to reports. And the first is the superintendent's report. So Chris, I will let you take it away.
Thank you. I don't necessarily have anything to add to my report. I know there's a lot of information in that report. There's one sort of point that I want to make sure folks know. We did a section in here about new hires, FY23 contracts and resignations, and I shared a spreadsheet with all I believe there are close to 60 folks who have either resigned or retired. Mistakenly, the access to that was closed to only people with BUUSD emails. That's been since opened up this afternoon, so people have full access to it. It was intended to be a public document right from the get-go. That's why I shared it in this report. So for anybody who's having trouble getting on that, my apologies. But anybody can get on that now. The other piece that I kind of wanted to stress on here is just to once again thank the board and community members present for respectfully listening to our recruiting and marketing presentation 2 weeks ago. This work is going full steam ahead. I just want to reiterate and make clear that we need the full community's support in doing this work right now. I talked about the extremely tight labor market for support staff and getting faculty members. We still have open positions, professional positions numbering in the 30s. We have a lot of work to do between now and the start of the school year. We need everybody to get on board. Come visit us at the Central Vermont Job Fair at the Variad next Wednesday. We've got a lot of people there. We're pulling out all the stops and creatively reaching out to folks who may want to work with us and making this an attractive place to work and to move to. So just want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Tim Bolton has a question. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I saw that this afternoon I'm just very curious, have we got any closer to figuring out why a lot of these people have left or are leaving? I know that a good portion of those were retirees. I'd like to get a better definition of why people are leaving.
Is compiling data from exit surveys that people are doing. We don't force people to do those, but we're getting lots of good feedback, and the plan is to submit that at least in its most current form in my June report. So, and let's hope that these are the last of our resignations and retires before that. But yeah, we will have that information at for the next report.
Okay, so I apologize, I went out of order, but I'm going to do public comment first. So was there a question over here?
What is the school district doing to retain its employees first? And second, are there things that are being done during the school year to gauge how the employees feel their employment's going with the school?
Yeah, right. So the whole retention piece, Michael, is so important these days. We're doing everything we can to support our folks. As I've said in other points in this report and throughout, I mean, people have been having to step up in multiple roles on a daily basis. So, we want to make sure people have opportunities to give feedback on this. Principals, myself, we're checking in with people constantly because they do need to be heard about what's going on. But it has been a very, very tough year for retaining school employees everywhere right now, given the nature of what's going on.
Is there a gauge in a year where you guys are doing some type of assessment or evaluation to see how they feel?
Well, there are always opportunities to share feedback. We don't have a formal one now, but we're going to be there's going to be opportunities for folks to provide feedback for sure. And we're hearing, Mike, from people constantly about what they're needing and what their needs are. So
I guess I was just asking if there was a formal way that you guys could put that into place to help with it.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah, duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh, Howard?
Yeah, I was actually to ask if we're any closer to being able to present the resignation letters to the school board so we can actually figure out why people are leaving. Again, if you're going to try to solve a problem, you need to identify the problem first. And I think if we actually get an idea of why these people are leaving, we could probably make the place more attractive. Because what I've been hearing from a lot of people is not with the narrative that the board has been telling me. So I'd like to know what's really going on.
Well, it sounds like Chris has answered that question. If we're going to be getting exit survey information in June, that will hopefully give us a fuller picture of why people are leaving the district, either resigning, retiring, or even if they're probably not doing exit surveys if they're switching roles, but I'm. Okay. Oh, Nancy, go ahead.
Yes. So I have a couple of questions. I want to start with the article in the Times-Argus.
Which one now?
It's the one, the May 13th.
Yep.
You've got all stakeholders, our school board, or this is what was printed in the paper. Our school board, our community members, everybody's got to step up. Not down the road. The stakes are high right now. So when you say everybody's got to step up, what does that look like to you? What do you mean by that?
Well, everybody stepping up means we've got to get behind our schools, support them, support our teachers, our principals. I think I cannot stress enough the crisis that public education is in right now around staffing shortages. And it's now a time where we've really got to get behind our teachers and our principals. So that goes for everybody. As I stated, in that recruiting and marketing presentation, we have a reputation of being a very hard district to work for. Not all of it is fair. I've been here for 17 of my 33 years as an educator, and I've loved it. And many of us know the joys of working in this district, but there are also real big challenges. And what I'm trying to do is change that narrative. I'm trying really hard to change it. Where I need everybody, we need everybody to step up is to help me change that narrative. So that's what it would look like to me, Nancy.
So what does that look like? What is it that the community could do to let you know they're stepping up? I'm looking for some substance here. I'm looking for
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I think our social media presence can be highly critical. A lot of our staff feel disrespected in our community. A lot of our principals feel disrespected. I think it's important to note that we get lots of messages, phone messages, emails. We get posts shared with us in our community that really unfairly criticize some of the work that's going on right now, personalized stuff. This is just what's out there. I know I certainly experienced that. And most of us have thick skin. It's not about that. And as I've said repeatedly, it's not about us being closed off to taking hard questions or criticism. It's not that. It's about the approach. And the impression from many of us, many of our faculty, staff, or administration is that it's a very, very hard community to work in. So that's what I mean. It's not just not being critical. That's not what we're saying. But it is really kind of openly, publicly, loudly getting behind the work we're doing. And that doesn't mean you like everything that we're doing. But there's a reason I'm trying to promote the good work of our teachers and our kids in those showcases. They don't tell the whole story, but they tell a big, big part of the story of what's going on in our schools. So, and I'm proud of that. And that's what we're going to promote at the job fair next week. It's what we're promoting on our websites. It's what we're promoting, talking to anybody who's applying to work with us. So we just need everybody to be part of that.
Yeah, and I think to what Josh asked about the exit, if we could find out why all these teachers are leaving. Well, some are retiring, I'm sure, but I just wonder, when you get these calls, are you keeping track of, is it a consistent request from these parents or the people that are calling that you feel are negative? Or I'm just trying to figure out what it is that the community could do better. And then the follow-up to that is, you've also stated in here, you want to attract new families to the community, schools thriving and fully staffed, but you cannot do this without the full support of our board. What does that mean? What is it that full?
I think what that means is to be very aware that we talk to candidates, prior administrative candidates, teaching candidates who do watch these meetings. They will be watching the meeting that we're having tonight. They watch the recordings, right? They watch the committee meetings. They watch all this stuff, and they do the same when they're doing their homework to apply to other districts. This is very important for our board to understand. And when they do so, what I hear in the Vermont education community, I'm here for years, but definitely since I've been in this job, is that we don't compare well in terms of in terms of the tone of the meetings, the nature of the meetings, and it makes it very hard for us to attract folks. So that's what the board can do. We can be very aware of how we're projecting this district to the community at large, the Vermont community at large, because these meetings are public. And I'm trying to just be as clear as I can that this is having an impact and making it very challenging for us to attract candidates to come here. So this is what I'm hearing, it's what I'm experiencing, it's what our principals are hearing and experiencing, and it's what's being shared with me by folks in the VPA and the VSA. So it's just important for us to be transparent about this. Is all of this image that we have fair? No, but it's what it is, it's out there. And I'm trying to counter it as best I can. And I'm just going to need everybody's help to do that.
I think that's statewide. I think it's not just Barrie, but it's statewide with a lot of school districts and stuff. Just to be fair, I think it's a lot, because I hear a lot of it. I've been reading a lot of other school boards are having this issues as well. The other thing is, okay, I guess that's it on that. Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Terry, go ahead.
And are we going to go down through, because we're kind of just at the top of it, so I want to, I guess, some other questions as well. But Chris, isn't another strategy, so for community members or people in the community that are reaching out to the school, whether it's through social media, emails, or whatever, isn't another strategy to solve their problems?
Of course.
So rather than, the concern that I have is, quite frankly, you continue to paint this narrative, this negative narrative that Barry's a tough place to work. We have people show up to meetings that aren't fair and all this stuff. And I don't think that's entirely true. I think every person that shows up and asks a question is asking a question because they do care and they do support the school and do want to see improvement as well, right? So I don't think you can just paint it all with a broad brush and say that anybody that asks an opposing question or something that's a little bit critical isn't helping the matter, right? And honestly, it's really something that we should be using to look in the mirror and make ourselves better, rather than continually going out there. When you continually say, I need the support of the community, I need the support of the school board, the full support, people hear that and go, well, what do you want us to do? What more do you want us to do? If I've got an issue with the school with my kid, I'm going to bring it up. And how is that not fair?
Well, of course.
Right? So.
Oh, yeah. I want to be very clear. We're not saying, and I not only say it in the article, I'm saying repeatedly, we are not closed off to tough questions or criticism at all. I think that, like some of the stuff that's happening in social media, our principals and we're not even aware of it. They're not even calling us, or maybe they're contacting you, but they're not contacting us. It's really important that our principals, our teachers for that matter, have an opportunity to address these concerns that folks have. I have an opportunity to do it. If we don't, and if we, like Michael brought up this point about the seatbelt issue, duly noted, right? So that is a fair thing to bring up, of course. But I think we just have to understand that what's out there in a lot of social media and the emails and messages some of us get are highly toxic, unfair, in some cases threatening, and they're not helpful. They're not getting us anywhere. So, but to address your point, Terry, absolutely. I mean, we need to address the community's concerns. And at the risk of speaking for our whole admin team, we're doing our dangest to do that in these current conditions. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm not trying to, none of us are trying to present or paint a negative picture, but folks are asking for transparency. I've got to be honest. I've got to be honest with what I'm hearing and experiencing through this hiring, this continuous hiring season I've been in since I started the job. We've been full on in hire mode since last summer. It's never really up trying to fill these positions. So I'm getting a consistent narrative from folks who are considering working with us. I don't know. This seems like a tough place. And there are other tough places. Nancy's right. Tough in different ways. But it's just a consistent picture that's being painted. And I'm doing my best to counter it. I love this community, folks. I would not be here if I didn't believe in our teachers and our kids and all this. I'm really working my tail off to make this an attractive place to live in and send your kids to school and to work in. And I'm going to continue to, as long as you'll have me in the position.
Well, could you just, in general, share with us some of the concerns that, are they from parents? Are they from individuals who are not connected with the school in any way? These emails and communications that you're getting, what's the
a lot of
nexus?
this was during the COVID stuff, right? There was lots of disagreement around COVID, and it brought up passions and all that. But maybe I can speak to something that is recent, right? In this board report, there was a spreadsheet shared with about 60-something people who would resign or retire from their positions. I put that in this report with the full understanding that it was open to the public. That's why I put it in there. The settings were mistakenly set so that only BUUSD folks could get on it. So if Terry opened it up through his BUUSD email, great, he's in. If he did it from his personal email, he wouldn't have had access. That was a complete mistake. But what happened in the last couple days on Facebook and other places, there are all these accusations that we're trying to be secretive and we're not sharing stuff, and some really horrible things said about leadership, about the district. Nobody's called me on this. Nobody's called me on this. Nobody sent me an email about it. As far as I know, nobody sent any board members
I got
about
an
it.
email today about it.
You did?
It was
Okay.
very upsetting, actually, because when I saw that, I had already read the packet, and I knew this was a link in the packet,
Yeah.
and the packet is 100% public.
Yeah.
And so when I went to the Post to see that and see all the things that folks were saying, definitely upsetting. And
Yeah.
definitely my very first thought was, there's been a misunderstanding here.
Yeah.
This is in the packet, it's a clickable link,
Yeah.
it's public, so it's a settings problem.
Yeah.
And what I wish in a situation like that is before a post on social media goes to blast the district, that someone would call someone directly and say, this is in the packet, I'm trying to click on it, but I can't. Is there a reason why the public can't see it? That would be a nicer so that's the type of thing, all hands on deck, or I hear the support of all, that's the type of thing I think about. If we can assume goodness or assume good intent first before we look to blast somebody for doing the wrong thing, that's what support is.
So I'm sorry, I'm not taking public comment right now. We're doing board comment, and if everyone is done, we're going to start to move on, if that's okay.
Yeah, and we also have
I had something else I wanted
we have
to say.
Mr. Lynn ready to roll at 7:30.
Exactly. So do you want to present more of your report, or do you
Nope,
just want to take
nope.
questions if there are other questions
Sure,
about
I
your
can just take
report?
other questions.
Okay, Alice, do you have any other questions about the report?
I just have a comment on the snapshot press release. People really need to read that, because I read it, and you need to read everything that's on it, because it isn't just test information. It's information about who we are as a district, and there really are some very good things on that. So I would urge everybody who can click on anything to look at that and see where we stand with highly qualified teachers, where we stand with attendance, that type of thing, because this is the information that the state agency gets and then compiles it and ships it out so everybody can see it.
Harry?
So on the AOE snapshot stuff, so I would only say that, we talk a lot about test scores and in COVID and all that stuff, and we really shouldn't rely on them. And even here we say that, the perspective of test scores, but we've got to use something. But I am encouraged, Chris, to see that you put in there that, we're going to do more locally and more timely stuff. And that's kind of the stuff that I've been asking for in the educational performance update that I want to see every other board meeting or something. So I think that is good, but I don't think, this is what we've got. So we've got to find a way to glean something from this and use it as a benchmark or a spike in the ground to move forward, right? I think there is valuable information in there in all of our test scores, and certainly I appreciate what everyone has said about data. We shouldn't just do everything based on data, right? We're humans. We're not computers. However, listening to Karen and a lot of the meetings that we've had so far, Karen is relying a lot on data, which there's a lot of value to it. It certainly can steer the direction or the discussion. So data is important. So again, I appreciate the concern to be careful how we look at this information, but we've got to use it. It's what we have, right? So, and we do have the ability to look back prior to COVID as well. So certainly some stuff there. You want me to keep going with other questions, or you want me to stop there?
Do you have other questions?
I do.
Okay.
Of course I do. So in terms of the substitutes, Chris, so what's the plan? So I read what you had written about the substitutes, and yes, it's challenging, and yes, it's hard to find people, and clearly you can see that we're spending more money than we budgeted. All that stuff makes sense. But so what's the plan though, right? And I think I heard you say on the finance meeting, and I really liked it, that we just got to start doing business differently, right? That's the reality. The people aren't out there, and that's not just us. That's across the board. Everyone is feeling this pinch. Everyone, right? So it would be nice to snap our fingers and think that we're gonna hire all these people that we need, but we're not. So rather than continuing to have ourselves in the head that, woe is me, we got to find some people. These are the people I got. We need a new model, right? And I know that you're working on some of that stuff. It would just be nice to hear some more specifics. What is actually the plan to bridge this gap? Is there one? And if it's using the permanent subs or outside providers, then it is what it is. So.
Yeah, the permanent subs have been more successful. What has happened with a few of these permanent subs is that if they have teaching licenses, they get snatched into open teaching positions, which is a good thing. So it's been very hard to keep those positions filled, but they're much more reliable. We can plan our days, our weeks with them when there's there's no deep bench for daily subs anymore. So that the plan is to continue looking at these permanent substitutes, because you have to have as many substitutes as possible. Yep. But it's also important to note that folks on these days, and I know we shared some information from Barrytown about having almost 40 people out the other day. We're just pulling it together, from within as best we can to cover our days. This has been pretty much the situation since August.
Yeah.
But nobody's sitting on their hands. No, that's for sure.
No. Next topic, Chris, is the homelessness stuff that you included, which is certainly good information. But I guess just reading it, so I understand what you're saying, that the population is certainly going up in our district. But what are you proposing? What are you proposing that we do other than expanding social services, which I know I hear from a lot of folks in the community that are concerned about social emotional learning, but also at the same point saying, but we're a school, we need to educate. So what's the plan here? What's the play?
Well, we need to make sure our schools are fully staffed with folks who can meet the social emotional needs of our most vulnerable kids. And the number at Barrie City, it's approaching 8-9% of the population of the school. This is an extraordinary figure. And look, let's be very, very clear that there are many kids in this situation who are thriving despite it. It's incredible, actually, their resilience and their toughness, their family's toughness. But a lot of these children, and not just those who apply or who qualify for McKinney-Vento, are really struggling. And I know Mr. Kuhn is going to address that when he speaks to us shortly. But what we have to do, Terry, we got to get qualified people into the school to meet the needs, and that is what I'm spending a good chunk of my time with our principals doing right now, trying to get folks on board.
And last one that I have, Chris, is on the hiring updates and stuff. So I understand this is tough everywhere, right? For everybody, not just schools. It's everyone. And and you do say a lot that, boy, we're really challenged. We're not. But I think you need to stop and reflect for a minute. You've filled 48 positions since board reorganization. That's huge. That's a success. That's a testament to the team approach that you're doing, the recruiting that you're doing. It's cool stuff. So, but it's hard to to hear that, oh my goodness, we can't find people. We got 50 people in 10 weeks. That's amazing. That's a whole company, honestly, right? So that's pretty cool stuff. So
bravo,
congratulations. Yes. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. It has been, Terry, I really appreciate that, because it is a huge effort to do this, because it's so competitive right now. We've really got to stand out. We got to make these folks feel as welcome as possible.
Yeah. So now on the flip side, the 68 folks that have resigned, right? So that's 69. So that's a concerning number, right? And to the point that I know we spent some time talking about this, and I don't want to spend a lot of time about talking, but honestly, I think we need to maybe understand a little better of what's pushing these folks away. Is it simply people retiring or moving elsewhere? 68 resignations is concerning. It's incredibly concerning. 48 new hires, awesome. 68 going the other way, that concerns me. And to the point that I don't think that we're going to find that 68 people are leaving because it's a tough place to work, because of pay issues, because of board meetings or this or that. So at some point, I think we need to spend some time and get a little more up to speed on what's going on with these resignations. Drill into this stuff a little bit. But congratulations again on the 48. That's a huge win.
Nancy, do you have questions?
More of a comment. I just want to say, as everybody knows, I'm from Barrie, and I think this community, Barrie City and Barrytown, is a great community. And I know in the past that if some family or anybody needs help, they will step up, and if you let them know what you need, they're there. This place of my whole life has been wonderful. Yeah, everybody has their issues, but we work through them as a community and we step up. And I think if the community knew exactly what is needed, they would be there. Yeah, you're not going to please everybody, but if you're listening and hearing, then I think it's going to be for the better. And this community is great.
Thanks, Nancy. Renee? Chris?
Yeah, a couple things. I had a number of teachers at multiple of the schools reach out and say how much they appreciated for the breakfast, and how much it meant to them, and not only what the board breakfast for Teacher Appreciation Week accomplished, but also what their parents groups did for them and the different ways they felt appreciated, like to the point where people were like, they were emotional about thank you for coming and giving us breakfast. And so when we think about board support, I'd like to see all of us go to as many of all of the schools as possible. And maybe we plan ahead next year so we know and people can look at schedules. Like, I'd like for all of us to show up at all the schools if that's possible, to say we as a unified board support all the schools, not just the elementary schools, not just the high school, but like we all support you. I'm hoping to make it to the high school graduation, and I think going to the different activities. So when we talk about board support and we talk about community support, it's showing up. It's showing up to the games, the graduations, the plays, all that stuff. That says to the kids and to the teachers and to the staff, you matter. And we show up for you because you matter, and we want to support you. And we support you with boots on the ground. We support you by showing up, butts in the seats. That's what support is. I would also challenge my fellow board members, and I try to do this every board member, and every board meeting, I'm sure you see this. I would love for every meeting for us to highlight something out of the packet that we were impressed by, like Terry saying the 48 hires, the goodness of this community. I would love for every board meeting for us to say, I read this and I thought it was freaking awesome. I want to highlight this. I would challenge the community. When you are a parent and you come to a meeting, I'm a school social worker, and when I write an email to a parent, before I say, hey, tricky time with your kid, I say, here's what was amazing about your kid today. I was so glad to hang out with them, and they put a smile on my face. And here's some tricky stuff that happened in our time together that I wanted to let you know about. I would challenge people coming to the board meetings, if you have a kid in the school, show up and tell us, my kid said this about my school. My kid's teacher is amazing. This happened. I saw this in the hallway. I went to a game and the coach was so positive. Like, whatever it is, I would love to hear more of those positive things from everybody who's attending these meetings. Parents, kids, teachers, board members, because in these packets, there is something every single meeting that blows me away. Every meeting. So we need to highlight more of that, not just in the showcases that Chris is doing, but for all of us to say, I see this good work. And we have to balance the positives with the negatives, with the criticism. Yeah, times might be tough. There are things to say, to question, to wonder about, but there's positive stuff to celebrate, and I think we all need to be highlighting that together as a community. That's all I'm going to say.
Tim?
Oh, actually, I'll double check the dates.
Yeah, the dates.
The dates for on the addendum piece of your report, the Berry City 8th grade step up nights. It says Wednesday, June 16th. Should that be the 15th?
Yeah, I had the same question. And then in the next sentence, it says Thursday, June 17th. And then,
Is it supposed to be Wednesday, Thursday, or is it the
Hang on,
16th and 17th?
and then Berrytown, you have
Okay.
Thursday, the 17th.
Okay, what I do know is this: Wednesday is the 15th, Thursday is the 16th. So the celebrations are Wednesday and Thursday. So I will fix that. Sorry about that.
And then
Confused
Berrytown is
everybody.
Thursday.
Yep, Berrytown is Thursday
The
evening, the
16th.
16th.
Okay,
And Berry City and Berrytown are splitting theirs on the 15th and 16th. And the graduation, the commencement for Spalding is the 18th.
okay, great.
I
Thank you.
will follow up with an email to all of you
Okay,
with that.
thank you.
Yep.
Tim, do you have any questions? No. Okay, thank you. Next are building reports, and I know Hayden is going to give us his report in person. So Hayden, go ahead.
Also, I'll be doing it in virtually, so thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, and I will just state I am sharing some data tonight and so some information, and I've collected all this data from our student database or through staff surveys, etc. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them after. All right, good evening. First, thank you to the board for allowing me to serve in the role as elementary school principal at Berry City Elementary School for the past 4 years. I want you to know that I've cherished every day for this opportunity. In the spring of 2018, I was hired to be the principal of Berry City Elementary School. Starting as early as my initial interview, trauma in students was a major concern. Fast forward to today, 4 years and one pandemic later, the mental health needs of our community have grown at a scale factor of 10 and are having an enormous impact on our young people. We are seeing more and more students showing signs of mental health needs, depression, self-harm, poor attendance, along with reactive behaviors such as elopement and violence. We are seeing these needs in all of our students, but especially for those who are having adverse childhood experiences. Our staffing challenges this year have only compounded these needs. The reality is our community is facing a lot of major challenges. The lack of affordable housing, mental health needs, rising living costs, combined with domestic violence, crime, and narcotics are taxing our school support systems. Our local support agencies, such as Washington County Mental Health, Department of Children and Families, are equally understaffed, if not worse so than us. This leaves our school staff overwhelmed, exhausted, and burned out from trying to meet students' needs in the classroom and failing. But these needs are far beyond what a classroom or school can provide. Our local service providers are at capacity and have up to a year-long wait list for outplacement programs for students in crisis. Currently, there are 67 students identified as homeless at Berry City Elementary School, which, as Chris shared, is about 8% of our student body. This number is just a number. It doesn't describe the lack of basic needs such as food, running water, or simple routines all children need. Our school provides clothing, food, hygiene products, access to dentists, access to medical care, on top of a rock-solid education. Yesterday, Jen Carbino, one of our admin assistants, purchased towels for students to be able to shower at school. On average this year, Berry City Elementary School has had 21 staff absences per day. On weeks following vacations or big outbreaks, this number is more in the 45 to 50 range. This doesn't include the 12 currently unfilled student support positions in our building. So when we say we are missing 50 staff, we're really missing more like 60 to 65. These absences mean students don't have consistency, spend more time with substitutes, or lose vital services such as reading, math, speech, or behavior check-ins. This lack of support and services are having a detrimental impact on all of our learners, but especially those from historically marginalized groups. In fact, 78% of our students who were suspended from the school this year were either on an IEP, in state custody, or homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. That means that 4 out of 5 students who are suspended are because we do not have staffing to safely support them and the other children. It's for all these reasons that I'm proud to address you tonight and say, hey, we've had school every day. It's not been easy. It's taken an entire team, elementary, middle, paraeducators, teachers, behavior and support staff, maintenance, and administration together to make it work. We have really amazing people. People like Kirsten Evans. She's a second grade teacher, has not missed a single day from her classroom this year. Tyler Watkins, our lunch duty volunteer, every day distributing lunches and supervising the cafeteria to help out as a volunteer. Or Mariah Jacobs, who works around the clock to help students and teachers to be successful in their classrooms more and more. Our staff routinely are called upon during their lunchtime or recess to cover or asked to be double up on classes to make ends meet for the day. I believe our whole staff should be celebrated for this feat. In a year when schools around us had days and weeks of closures due to COVID for staffing issues, we've been open every day. At the same time, Berry City Elementary School continues to have among the lower in the district, if not the lowest turnover rate among staff. That all said, since school reopened in August 2020, 60% of the Berry City Elementary School staff have tested positive for COVID-19. This is triple the infection rate of the state of Vermont. Teachers and staff have routinely put themselves at risk for the betterment of our students and community. I want to thank all of our teachers who have served in our school and all schools this year for their work. As my time here at Berry City comes to an end, I've had a lot of people asking me what I think is the answer to these challenges. I'm not sure I have answers, but I have a few ideas and a few, maybe to meet what you were all talking about tonight, and a couple of recommendations on how we could really use your help. First, I believe thoroughly in expanding our restorative programs. The restorative programs have shown improved student outcomes in math, literacy, attendance, and mental health. They're saving us in the millions of dollars versus outplacing students, and they require a lower staff ratio than to one-to-one model. Second, I believe we need to focus more of our resources on mental health needs. Consider a social emotional learning coach and coordinator for the district to help support teachers and better train teachers to support students' mental health needs. The fact is, the needs of the students and the amount of staffing we have, the teachers are going to have to bring this into the classrooms more and more. That doesn't mean we need to take away from other things. That means we need to embed it in our lessons. Finally, I do have a couple of ideas on some really important places the board may be able to help out our schools. First, more advocacy at the state level to bring more resources to Berry. We need to expand the DCF offices. We need more affordable housing and housing for everyone in our community. And we need to increase the mental health supports from both Washington County Mental Health and Green Mountain supports. We don't have, they don't have enough people either. And finally, I just want to bring up, one statistic I look at is a best indicator for a community in the cycle of education is the graduation rate. The graduation rate, I believe, is the best measure of a successful school system, especially in economically disadvantaged areas. Having a high graduation rate is the best way to end generational poverty cycle. Thank you to all of you for your work for the students of Berry, and I'm happy to answer any questions of the board, if that's allowed. And finally, I want to just acknowledge we are having Field Day on June 14th. There'll be an inflatable pirate slide, snow cone machine, obstacle course, and of course, I'll be in the dunk tank. So make sure you're there because that'll be your chance at me right then. So thank you, everyone. And like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll do my best.
Hayden, I have a question for you. Did you type that up? Would you be able to send that to us?
Absolutely, yes. I've like I said, I was pulling a lot of data, and so I didn't have it in time for the running report, but I'm happy to share that to you. And Chris actually has it already.
Okay, so we could share it with the board and include it, and then Andrea wouldn't have to necessarily. She could just say refer to the board report or the school report that Hayden gave verbally. Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions? I'm going to ask the public first. Any questions, Mr. Coe?
Yes. Thank you, Hayden. Thank you. You're the principal at Berry Elementary School.
Berry City Elementary.
Berry City Elementary School, and you are leaving? Are you leaving?
Yes, correct. This will be my last year serving in Berry City. I'll be a principal at Woodsville High School in New Hampshire next year.
Since we've talked about people leaving, teachers and principals leaving, could you tell us why you're leaving Berry City and going somewhere else?
Yeah, frankly, one, it's better for my family. But honestly, the pandemic's been hard for everyone, and I will throw this out there: like, don't ever be in charge of anything during a pandemic. It's not what you want it to be. So that's looking at my staff and students and families for the last 3 years on a screen and telling them school is closed, school is open. I don't know if we have school tomorrow. The governor hasn't told us yet. It really it wore me out. So having a fresh start, new group is important. I think that's also important for the school as we kind of hopefully for the final time transition out of this pandemic and into more recovery. And so I think that transition is important for me, but I also think there's a good opportunity for a new direction too.
Thank you, Hayden. Good luck.
You had a question?
I just want to compliment to Hayden. It's been amazing having you as the principal. I know we talked on Friday at the pizza party, but thank you for everything.
Thank you, and for all of you who know Mike, Mike set up a pizza party for all our third graders who were did all the SBACs, so they had quite an awesome celebration last Friday. So thank you, Mike, and to Domino's too.
Yes.
Hayden Paul Malone, I have a question for you. You said there's about 67 homeless students in Berry City Elementary School. Is that correct?
Actually, Paul, I just got an email today. We're up to 70.
So how do you track them? Where are they located? And how do they get to school?
Whew, okay, yeah. We have Dawn Poitras, and she is a miracle social worker, student substance abuse prevention counselor, and she does our homeless coordination through the McKinney-Vento Act. We have students living in hotel rooms at the Hollow Inn, at the Econo Lodge, at the Pierre Motel, at the Knoll Motel. We have students living in RVs in other towns that maybe they lived in Barrie most recently, and now they have been displaced from their homes, so they're living in like a camper. And they, through the McKinney-Vento Act, they're able to keep education stability and remain going to our school. We transport them. Many are able to access the bus, and we do have buses that go to some of those sites if that's the best way to transport. We also rely on taxis. We have a taxi that comes from the Econo Lodge every day. And then sometimes family members are able to transport if we're not able to set up. But we also have staff members who often step up to transport students maybe on their way home or to work. And that's a lot of examples of how we do it, but I'm sure there's some other ones out there.
Okay. Councilman?
Well, I'd like to know the why of it.
Well, the why people are
Why we have
homeless?
so many homeless students.
I think, I'm not sure Mr. Kuhn would be able to answer that though, Paul.
It's
Be able to answer.
I can give you a couple pieces of conjecture. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but you know, from what my experience, we're seeing a lot of evictions in our community. And what the reason we're having my understanding, the reason we're seeing quite an uptick right now is because of for 2 years, you know, there was a lot different restrictions for landlords in these situations, and some of those have been lifted. So now we're seeing that. But then there's a major housing shortage. I mean, we can't get staff members because they can't find a place to live. Our families can't find new apartments. They can't find affordable housing. So there's just a shortage. So when you see like in the news, like, oh, there's these homeless folks in hotels, like they're talking about a lot of young families that are really struggling.
Okay. Thanks, Hayden. Josh Howard?
Yeah, Hayden, again, thank you for your service there at Berry City. Maybe much missed. A quick question would be, with your conversation with teachers in the school, I'm sure this has come up a few times. We might be able to speak on their behalf a little bit. What has been said about what would help them be more effective and efficient in what they do?
The number one thing that we hear is number one, staffing. Our teachers are doing five lunch duties a week, and then they're often being asked to sub in other places. So they're not able to be as effective because they're just running all day. You know, we're not able to make it work. So when we have these like 50 person outages and we stay open, we know that's what's best for the community and best for kids, but it really has a wearing and lasting impact on our staff because they're just going all day. But that said, there's other resources we're just lacking right now. Like we do have many children that just don't have the right supports in place because they're non-existent right now, as I described, with the lack of outplacements available, the lack of just staffing available to kids. And then think how disruptive it is, you know, for students with one-on-ones or students with needs. We often end up not being able to support their needs because we have to take people to just fill classrooms roles to keep school open. So it all compounds and it just kind of adds together, you know. But I would say that's the number one reason. And some of the other things I talked about have an impact. But I think in the end of the day, a lot of the issues we know, and I shared in the statistics there, are why people work at Berry City. They come here, they're strong teachers, they're strong educators, and they want to bring their talents to help kids who maybe need it more, or a group who needs it more. So there's a lot of positive staff here. So I think that's one of the assets overall. But I hope I answered your question, Josh.
Andrea?
I was just going to suggest that Hayden's letter, what you can do is have Tina add it as an addendum so that it's out there online with this board packet.
Sure thing.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, great job. I mean, I personally, I would rather hear that kind of information coming out of a school than any video. It's far more informative. It tells a better story, and it gets the information out there. Just for the sake of knowing, what is the role of Washington County Mental Health, DCF, and any of the other services in the school in assisting with these children?
Yeah, so first, Washington County Mental Health, they provide a lot of, there are preferred provider through the state for students with mental health needs and who are identified through the school or outside of school. So they do provide the SBBI program, the school-based behavior interventionist. So like a student might have behavioral need, they'll have a one-to-one with them. Currently at an elementary school, just the elementary wing of Berry City, we only have one of those Washington County mental health BIs. When I started, there was like 14.
You may have lost
What he was
Hayden.
saying is we had, when Hayden and I started, Hayden, if you can hear us, you did freeze, you're gonna have to reboot there. You might be jumping in another thing. There he goes.
Sorry about that. Nothing personal, Tim. My computer died. But I don't know where it cut off, but the Washington County Mental Health Program provides the SBBI supports in our schools. So the one-to-ones that might support students with more intensive behavior challenges. If you maybe heard, we only have one of those folks working in our school right now on the elementary end, due partially to the lack of staffing that they're experiencing, and partially to we have had less referrals since we've implemented our restorative programs. And that's where I said, like, I believe that is a pathway for our district to both do better by kids, meet better staffing needs, and to reduce costs. DCF does not have like a direct involvement in the school. Like there's not somebody from DCF sitting in an office in the school or anything like that. We do have social workers that work for our school, but the fact is we need their support to help us out. We report abuse to DCF every day. All of our staff are mandated reporters, but often reports that in the past maybe were taken up or investigated, or maybe we're able to put interventions in place. The overwhelmed DCF system isn't able to support these students, so we're having kids coming from places where the needs met, DCF supporting them, it's making it important.
Okay, he's breaking up. Okay, thank you, Hayden. Does anybody else have a question? And maybe Hayden will be able to answer it. Anyone? Nancy?
Yes, I want to talk about the student population that doesn't seem to get talked about, and that's the advanced placement students that go there, that work hard. How are they doing? That is my question. And are they
Well, as I can answer that. I don't have that testing data, but I can say, we have, through years of budget cuts, been able to maintain some of our high achiever programs, including our Renaissance Readers High Achiever program that's taught by Heather Harrison for students grades 3 through 6. We also have a High Achievers Math program for students in grades 5 through 8, and students are accessing those and thriving. We have Girls on the Run happening, lots of other opportunities, sports at the middle school, and then like the general field trips and things. But coming out of this pandemic, I think it's important to make sure I state, like, there are kids who are doing academically well, absolutely, but all students have had a significant impact coming through this pandemic, and they're all experiencing mental health needs one way or another, and they're presenting a lot differently. That said, we've maintained these high achiever programs and our general classroom programs, and they are showing success still.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Hayden. Can we move on to other building reports?
Can I just ask one more quick question? Is the 70 children that are homeless, is that just from elementary school, or is that elementary and high school?
I think that's our whole.
It's the whole Berry City,
City.
it's the whole pre-K-8.
Just one of our schools.
That's
We
just
have
one of our
another
schools.
Pre-K to 8, so that's just one of the Pre-K to 8 schools in the district.
That's just Berry. It's just Berry City.
There's also.
Just
Yeah,
Berry
that's
City.
all then.
The numbers are much lower at
Berrytown.
Berrytown and Spalding. But still, 36 kids between the two.
So there are homeless kids that go to school in Berrytown also?
Yes.
As of May 20th, 14.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn.
Everyone, I don't see you. I appreciate everything over the last 4 years.
So much. Okay, is there anything else for building reports that anybody would like to comment or highlight or has a question about? Sarah.
Just for those that read the Spalding report, they did a nice job detailing how we re-implemented the community service graduation requirement. And it says thus far we have 5,960 hours of community service lost by our current students. And that highlights the 5 seniors who have the most hours. And community services is something really important to me. I think everybody kind of heard my spiel at the curriculum meeting, but I'm really glad that we re-implemented that. Really proud of the students who put in so many hours and hoping we can get that into our middle schools.
Agreed, and I will point out that this has been one of the great comebacks from coming out of the pandemic. This type of work for kids really took a hit during the pandemic, and it's been just wonderful to get them back out in the community doing this.
Alice, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Terry?
Can we just add for next time, the C building?
Yes, we're gonna have a C report at the end of the year, and they're gonna be part of the whole rotation.
Okay. Nancy?
This is on building reports?
Yes. No. Renee? Chris?
Just want to say congratulations to the Spalding Drama Department and their Amelie production. I went multiple nights. It was fantastic. And I happened to catch the end of the very last show, which was Saturday night. They put on 4 shows in 3 days. Incredible work by these kids and by their advisors who, my goodness, put in hours upon hours to support these kids. The last show of the night, the show ended and it's very emotional actually, the whole cast and crew came out and all of the seniors got they got flowers and they got speeches to them. They call it their senior send-offs. Those kids were bawling. They were just crying. They were so in love with each other and so happy to be doing this play. And it was just like such a moving experience just across all of the kids on the casting crew. The belonging that they felt and the joy, just unbelievable. And I just hope more kids will participate in more activities and we'll get back to more of that. So just thank you to the Spalding Drama Department for giving those kids such an incredible experience. It was fantastic.
Tim, do you have any questions about the building reports? Okay. Next are committee reports and
Can I make a suggestion about that?
yes.
Could we move these as a group to our next meeting? Is there anything in any one of these committee reports that requires immediate attention?
Well, what I was going to say is we have minutes in our packet, and unless someone has a question or something really pressing, I think there's minutes for every single one.
Except for on finance wasn't Tuesday.
Oh, right. So would you like to give us just a quick update on finance, and then we could just have the rest be written reports? Would that be okay? All right.
The business manager for the BUUSD gave an overview that there's going to be a new financial accounting system be installed in 2023. That's awesome. It's very exciting. She's very excited. We talked about having the 5-year capital plan with some details added to the website for current and future projects. We are also looking to get a salary breakage, which the business manager said she can provide a report on that. Pupil waiting update, we're still waiting on additional information about possible changes and how it's going to affect the budget. Summer projects, EEI, and I think that's energy efficient investments. We'll give a presentation to the board on June 9th for the HVAC system installations. We have not received any bids from the companies that we reached out to. ESSER funds that are going to be used for this project, which need to be used by 2024. There's talk of an extension to 2026 to allow time to use the funds because of these projects.
Highly likely, by the way.
What's that?
Highly likely that's going to
Yes,
happen.
yeah,
It's
because of the
awesome news.
inflation, the cost, the lack of storage, everything that's going on with everybody. To date, we have, for the fiscal year 22 and projections, we have a surplus of around 2 million. And we're waiting on the yield updates, waiting on changes to the equalized pupil calculation. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
I had one question about the curriculum committee. I think I saw where you weren't going to meet this next month or something, and I'm not on that committee. I guess I just want to know. It sounds like things are going really well. So it sounds like when fall hits and kids come back to school, that we're ready to rock and roll and get the school on track. Yeah.
I think so.
That's all I got to know.
Thank you.
I have one thing.
Yes.
Just one thing from policy, and it will be coming to the board, but the policy committee did recommend adding the C building to the rotation for the board meetings, and Chris was working on that schedule of which months would be at which building, so that will be coming to us, but that will be happening, that will be added to our rotation of where we meet.
Yes.
Is it just a policy or
Just in this policy that has to come to the board. Okay, is there anything else for committee? Andrea?
I just wanted to give someone a heads up before the negotiations committee approves their minutes. There's a few things that need to be added. The meeting location, the time that they entered executive session, and they need to be signed by someone of whoever submitted them.
You just have to do respectfully submit and sign your name, Terry. Terry did that, but it was his first time. He did a great job.
He did.
Kudos to him. Thank you for taking the notes. We will do that before we approve them. I'm not sure when our next board meeting will be, but yes, we will do that before our next board meeting. Thank you for that. Anything else for committee reports?
Yes.
Yes.
Policy committee, I see you canceled your meeting till August.
Yeah.
What about any new or amended policies that have to be dealt with before kids go back to school? If you're not meeting until August, the kids come back at the end of August, are those policies going to be an impact to?
So there were scheduling issues based on who was going to be able to make it, so there wasn't going to be enough people to hold the meeting.
We
so
should
that's
be
why we
good
canceled.
for August, and Sandra and I are meeting next Wednesday to go over any of the pressing ones that are coming up. I think we're going to be okay.
So there's not going to be any issues when the kids start back in, because, by the time you meet and discuss those policies, you got to bring it back to the board, so I don't know if it's going to.
Right, I mean, I don't think that any new required policies would change the way that schools open or how
Okay.
kids are educated for the month of August.
Okay.
We'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Also, as Tim noted, the curriculum committee is not meeting June 2nd.
Okay, so your next meeting will be July? Okay. Okay. And I also have a note, Alice, just so you know, I'm going to add Central Vermont Career Center School District to our report so that we can make sure that we get a report from you every month as well.
And sorry, one other thing I just wanted to say is it was discussed at the May meeting for the policy, and the committee was unanimous in voting that we would meet again in August. So that was a whole committee discussion at the meeting.
Okay. Next, we're going to do other business roundtable, and I would encourage you to keep it
Sonia,
brief. Sir?
before you move into that, and just one quick question, mostly for Nancy. Was that going to be a recommendation from the finance committee to move on the new, make a recommendation to the board to move on the new finance program for the business office?
No, she's gonna bring the contract in.
That's
On June
at our
9th.
next
On
meeting.
June
Yeah.
9th, I believe she's coming.
Good question.
Tim, do you have anything for roundtable?
I had suggested once before that we consider installing some sort of anonymous way that people from the school, the teachers, the staff, whomever, could ask questions or address people anonymously. And I've got a couple of people that are willing to pay for that, to have it done if it costs money. I'd really like to have that discussed, or just tell me no so I can tell them no.
It sounds like a crisp question.
Yeah.
For staff to be able to make suggestions about how to make things better or things that they might see that could be changed. But I think that's definitely a crisp question.
We are, as an admin team, looking at all kinds of different ways to get effective feedback, to include what Tim just brought up. So.
Well, maybe you could work with Tim and
Absolutely.
figure that out.
Happy to do so.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Alice?
Is there some way that the community and the board and just businesses even to know what schools need? You know, we talk about supporting teachers. You know, do they need someone to chase the chickens up at Berrytown? I volunteer.
There was a pig on the loose at Berrytown yesterday, by the way.
Yes.
I don't know if people heard about that. That was a highlight of the week.
Yes. But I mean, could the principals or something, you know, put out a list of these are the things, you know, I see occasionally that they need boots for the hiking club and things, but also a routine, that type of thing. That invites people to come forward and help.
To piggyback on what Alice is saying, I know there's a lot of Berry City teachers who do programs on Donors Choose, where you can go in there and you can look up schools next to, or you know, close to you. By zip code. There's a number of, there's a number of teachers at Berry City who put kind of like their wish list programs or activities or things that they need and they would like on Donors Choose. It's a nonprofit. Everything is perfectly vetted. You get a it's a tax write-off.
Is that a website?
It's a website, yeah.
It's like crowdfunding, like, hey, I want these type of stools for my classroom and it costs this much and I need this many. And I'd like to, who would like to donate $20 to that? You know,
There's a process through our finance office of how to do this.
There's a process and the schools have to qualify and because we receive title funds. And
right.
But there's a lot of projects that go on throughout the year that's.
But also if they need somebody to come in and speak on, I don't know, Mars or something, you know, there might be someone out there who's an expert on Mars.
Or chasing pigs.
Or chasing pigs.
Thanks, Alice. Terry?
Nothing, thank you.
Nancy?
We talked, I think in, I don't know what meeting it was, but an organizational chart that could be put out on the website. Has that?
An organizational chart.
Yeah, showing like the superintendent, the principals.
Yep.
Okay.
Does that have that?
Because
That we have that.
Do we have that? Okay. Um,
And it's being adjusted now, especially in the curriculum end, because we're readjusting that team, but yeah.
okay. Also, the Great Schools Partnership, you had indicated that you would be meeting with them in early May and you were gonna have that information. Has that?
In the June, whatever my June board report is, we'll have an update from the Great Schools Partnership, which I just want to be clear is funded through the CFP. So that is grant funded program. And yeah, we'll have a report for you guys in June.
Okay.
Essential work.
And also, I was gonna have this on the curriculum meeting, but I wanted to know if we could know what the graduate rate is and the dropout rate is, if you could share that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Maybe we should put that on future agenda items.
I think it's on the
It's
website.
right on the website, yeah.
I don't think the dropout rate is on there.
Well, I think if
That'd be
the
the
opposite of the
graduation.
graduation rate, yeah. So like if 60% are graduating, then 40% are dropping out.
But does it state that?
Well, no, but I think if 60% are graduating, wouldn't the rest not be graduating?
Well, I don't know. That's
Perhaps a
what,
link could be.
I think it's a little bit different though,
Yeah.
because it could be, I'm not graduating because I didn't get all my credits, and so I'm staying an extra year. So it might
Right.
be
That's
slightly.
that's the problem. It's not exactly that black and white.
But
But
close.
close though.
I mean, that's an
Close.
approximation.
all right. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Chris?
Congrats to Berrytown and their musical review. That was a highly successful event for like 30 Berrytown kids. Very exciting for them. And on the topic of like wish lists or donors choose, I do wonder if that could be somewhere on the website, that if the community is saying like, hey, how can we support teachers? There would a place to show the donors choose projects that are all happening. So if somebody wanted to put their money, like, yes, I want to put $50 toward that science project, or I want to help a teacher get this cool thing that they're raising money for. That might be a neat thing, a very concrete way to say, here's some stuff people are looking for.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'm just gonna add another note about donors choose. A lot of the times, especially around holidays or, Teacher Appreciation Week, there are corporations that will do donation matching. So if you happen to check, I'm on there all the time, so but if you happen to donate during that time, your donation is matched, and it's a way to put more money into our schools without burdening our taxpayers.
I want to say that I did go to see Amelie. It was fun. It was amazing. Really great set. They did a really great job.
Best set in years.
Yeah, it was
That bridge
really.
they built is huge.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And it was well done, and it was funny. It was really funny. And then I just went to the art show, and Giuliano's at the concert, and so I'm sorry that we missed that, because that's always a highlight. But the art show had some really great pieces as well. So I don't know how long it's up.
It's gonna be up for the rest of the school year, so you can
Okay,
come
so you
in
can
and
still
see
go
some
in and
kids
see it.
work, and yeah.
So if you have a committee meeting between now and the end of the school year, you'll get to see it. And I would encourage, as Chris said, for all board members to show up for, definitely for graduations. It's important. It shows the kids that we care.
If you go to graduation, you'll have a place of honor on the stage.
Panel. Chris. Andrea?
I just want to give a heads up before we get down to adjourn too quickly. If there is going to be any discussion with Pietro regarding holding training in open session or in private, that needs to be on the record. So it has to happen in this live meeting before you close out the meeting.
O'clock, we're already 34 minutes beyond when he was going to start.
I'm working on it.
Yep, so he is ready to roll.
Can I make one more point that we
yes.
skipped over? For the finance committee, we changed the next meeting date, so what's on there is incorrect.
Okay.
We rescheduled it, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's for the 21st.
Okay. Thank you for that. Future agenda items. For our next meeting, I have committee, there's a lot of things in the parking lot that are going to be split between the June 9th and the June 23rd meeting. And so the committee charge will be on June 9th. The educational performance update will be on June 9th. Some things are going to get pushed further out. The policies are going to be pushed to June 23rd. The board procedures and board engagement will be June 23rd. Reporting of exit survey information will be June 23rd. And the board start time we'll discuss on June 23rd. In addition to the next those items that I listed, we also, Lisa said she's going to present on the new software, and there's also going to be a contractor that's going to come and present about the HVAC project on June 9th. So those are items that will have to be added to that agenda. I would imagine we will have new hires again, and we will have, I don't think we'll have to do anything for the RAND comparison. I think that the paperwork maybe is just coming, but
we can have some more clarity.
yeah, so we can put that on the agenda as well. Anything else for future agenda items? Terry?
Electric bus issues update.
Okay.
Revisit the decision regarding review of staff resignation letters. Doesn't have to be next, wherever it fits is fine. And lastly, the salary metrics plans.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for Alice?
Or, would it be possible to continue our discussion about fundraising, independent fundraising within the buildings?
Yes. Yes, it's tricky when some of these things are happening outside of our purview, and
Yeah.
At the same time, we welcome the generosity of people too. So it's a tricky balance, but yeah, we can certainly get clarity on that.
Anything else for any other future agenda items? Yes.
This strategic plan, I know we talked about at the retreat that you were gonna have, when people look at it, you're gonna have something like how are you getting there to each step. You were going to talk to your IT person about getting some information, so when people look at it, okay, this
Yeah.
sounds great, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
And I was also looking at the 5 points, and you, like under community engagement, there's nothing there to say what is you going to do for community engagement? How are you going to engage with it? If you could get some more information so that people go there, they will have that information. So I just wanted to know if we could get an update on that.
Yeah, and we're gonna, the strategic plan is gonna be a big part of the summer work with our admin team. I think we need to recall that the strategic plan was developed about a year ago from the community. I mean, pretty incredible work. And this year, it has been very challenging to really dive deep into that as an admin team. So that's going to be a big part of our work this summer.
So we can maybe put that on to like maybe an early fall.
Yeah, that would be much more effective.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
It's a very strong document, and
Yes.
it can direct our work, all of our work, in the best way possible.
Okay, so hearing anything else? All right, so next meeting date, regular board meeting is June 9th at 6 o'clock at Berry City. And the second meeting in June is on June 23rd at 6 o'clock. I would also like you to consider, not for discussion right now, I'm putting this on your radar, to potentially have just one meeting in July so that we can have potentially some free time if we don't have work that needs to be done. So just think about that, please. All right. Now we don't have anything for executive session. So is Pietro
Yeah, I
with
just
us?
texted him to jump in. So he should. As I said, he's in until later, so. Hello, Pietro.
Hi.
Hello. So thank you for joining us. Before we start our training, there are some questions about whether the training should be an open meeting. So could you help us understand why it's not generally considered necessary to be an open meeting?
Well, so the open meeting laws have a specific exemption. And the exemption is for, among other things, trainings. Trainings are not subject to the open meeting laws because they are not a meeting. If, on the other hand, we wanted to talk about issues having to do with board business that were specific to things you may be acting on, that might be something where it would be subject to the open meeting laws.
Okay. I don't think we're going to be talking about anything we're acting on.
Well, I'm not going to be presenting anything you're going to be acting on. I'm going to be presenting on board roles, rights, and responsibilities.
Okay. So it is your recommendation that we would adjourn the meeting and then we would go into training? Just the board with you?
Yes. Look, so one of the reasons why it's important for the board to be with me outside of a public meeting is because I will be giving the board advice, legal advice about how they ought to operate. The board may have questions that they ask me that also elicit legal advice, and that is privileged. If we talk about those kinds of issues in open session, then the board will have waived the privilege. And it also, there's another issue, which is if, for example, the board needs to change its method of doing things because it learns from me that perhaps it's not doing things the way they ought to, that removes the ability to engage in a candid, open discussion about issues that may have existed.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yes, Terry.
Pietro, Terry Rails. If we start discussing things that we do or how we do or specific circumstances that we do, then that no longer is a training, and aren't we discussing board business?
Well, no, because what I'm going to be talking to you about is hi, Terry. And so what I'm going to be talking to you about is the rules of 16 VSA, how boards are organized, how they are expected to operate, what the primary roles and responsibilities are. What we're not going to be talking about is the kinds of issues that you must on an everyday basis vote on, the operations of the school, budgets, evaluations, what is your substantive evaluation of an administrator. None of those things are going to be specific to the training. The training is going to talk generally about rights, roles, and responsibilities.
So then what prevents it from being an open session then? Because if it's just a general training on information that I can pick a book up and read, or pick up the VSBA manual and read, then why can't it be an open session? And honestly, it seems if something rises to the level that it's legal counseling, then that to me it means that it is board business and is subject. Certainly glad to hear what you think.
Well, so look, whether you want it in open session or not is something that the board gets to decide. I will tell you that it is not a meeting, and it is not subject to the open meeting law. And I would encourage you to have the training outside of a meeting. I find that when trainings are done in a meeting, they tend not to be as effective because people are not as willing to speak freely about the issues or concerns that they may have. And I am reluctant to engage in frank conversation in an open way because I always worry that my language may be used against you in some future litigation. I don't want that.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir?
I have a question for you. Paul Malone, we've talked before on multiple occasions. For all practical intents and purposes, this is not an executive session item as far as board training. It is purely simply said, a meeting that falls out of the scope of the board's general business. Am I correct?
I'm not sure.
Paul, you know what? We have one, I don't know if he heard you.
Pietro, could you hear me now?
Oh, no, I heard you. I just didn't know who you were talking to. I'm sorry. Look, the open meeting laws are super explicit. Trainings are not meetings. So all of the rules that apply to meetings don't apply to trainings.
So some of the confusion is I put this in executive session, and so that was where I was mistaken, because it's not executive session, it's just that it's outside of the open meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, well, hello?
Are you acknowledging me?
Go ahead.
I'm curious, how did this item get on the agenda?
We actually already discussed that. So if you'd want to go back and review the beginning of this meeting, we had that discussion earlier in the meeting. Are there any other questions, or are we ready to adjourn? Sarah makes a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Chris is going to second. For adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Or thumbs up. Tim, Alex, Chris, Sarah, and those opposed?
No. Sorry.
Okay, so it's adjourned. And do we have a separate meeting, or do we?
Well, I think we can just keep it right in here. This is,
Okay.
I set up an executive session link, but we don't need to do that. We just need to go into this training. The folks who are not on the board need to exit. Yeah.
You have to vote for that. You may want to close down the video and vocal meeting, since you're going to have this as
Right.
a separate thing, so you don't have it.
Well, we won't be recording this.
Right.
Right.
Wait, so we could.
What I think you're saying is it's the same link, then somebody could jump on and join the meeting. And then
We
have to
could
allow
switch
us-
into that executive session link that I shared earlier. If we want to do that.
So thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Pietro,
Thank you.
if it's okay for you, I sent you a link earlier to jump into.
Yeah, I can get on that if you like.
I'm going to open that up right now. I'm going to stop recording this meeting and we'll see you there in just a moment, sir.
Tell Tim that
Tim, you got to jump into that executive session link that I shared earlier. Just give me a moment to get it open. Thank you.